Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Voin. Voin is the answer to the age-old question of how would it look if Diablo was first person? That is Voin in a nutshell, and I fucking love it, so let's talk about it. So what the fuck is a Voin? Well, Voin is, to put it very simply, you becoming the embodiment of lightning, given a weapon and told to purge the world of demons. That is the sales pitch for Voin. There's a bunch of loot that you can collect different combos. I've read somewhere that there's over 50,000 different combos of items you can put together. Essentially, Voin has a bunch of items for you to collect. They'll randomly drop from you killing enemies, or some will be given to you through completing quests. Each item will have different stats and they'll have this different suffix. Essentially very much like Diablo or any of the other games, when you get a legendary, they'll all have their own abilities. Well, Voin does the same thing, but with every single item in the game. Each of them can be upgraded and so on, and when you then infuse them, which you can do, you can upgrade them and then you can take a power of one of them, which doesn't destroy the item, it just takes the power, and then you can put it together with some other power from another weapon or armor piece or heart or anything else. Which means you can essentially make some insane builds. A good example of it is what I'm running, where I tether my enemies with lightning. Not only do I do that, but I also light them on fire, and when I light them on fire, a meteor will detonate on them, which will trigger damage to every enemy. If I get hit, I get cooldown reduction, but not only do I get cooldown reduction, I also have 3 hearts that pop out that if I collect all of them, I get a heart back, because you only can take 4 hits in this game. You can recharge health by killing and hitting enemies. However, with the right upgrade, you can also have your heart split out into 4 pieces that you collect, and then you'll get a heart back through that. There is so much build potential here, if that's what you're into, that this should sell itself. The weapons are all unique, they all have their own visual look and all of that. However, not all of them are new in the sense that some of them reuse movesets and abilities from other weapons, because some weapons do have abilities. Well, all weapons do. However, just because all weapons have abilities doesn't mean all weapons have unique abilities. Most weapons have a moveset that is copied from another. There is the general one that I really like, where you summon a lightning circle and then you have your fly up and you stab into enemies and whatnot. There are different variations of that. Every weapon will have some sort of ability for you to use, and usually 3 of them. And then you also have your kick, which if you sheath your weapon will become a long range dodge. Voin is just attempting to be cool, the game. Because when you play Voin, you don't have any fall damage, meaning that if you can put off enough momentum and recharge on your dodges, you can fly, because you can dodge upwards. So yeah, feel free to go up there, my little birdie. I have managed to fly throughout the entire of the newest maps in Voin, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy the freedom to be able to do whatever the fuck I want to, whenever the fuck I want to. I think that is something that a lot of games lack. And I think Voin has a lot of build potential through that, because you can virtually make anything in this game work for you. It entirely just depends on how you put it together. And for that reason, Voin in itself is pretty cool. Voin is cool just based on the build potential. However, where Voin really starts to draw me in is also the visuals. Now, I am a sucker for retro visuals. I fucking love it. And Voin has some of the most beautiful pixel art that I have seen in a game, I want to say. You can of course decide yourself through the settings how pixelated everything should look. But if you go with the retro aesthetic, you will have this really unique and cool looking thing, but some enemies will get pixelated, and as they get closer they become less pixelated. I fucking love it. I cannot describe to you how fucking good this game looks. Flying through the air and seeing all the glimpses of different pixels and shit, it's so good. It's so fucking good. I really like it. And then on top of all of that, you have a, what I would call, somewhat interesting story, as it started to pick up right before the game ended, because this game is in early access at the moment. But the story so far is that you're trying to kill a flesh myth. That is like kind of where you're at, and you never really get to fight that flesh myth, but it seems that they added a dialogue tree into the game and different NPCs to talk to and that sort of thing, which is more than there was in the first 2 worlds of the game, and I really find that cool. I love the fact that that exists and that's a thing. Voin, however, is a game that is at its core about builds. It's about being able to be fast-paced and do the things that you like. Very much like stuff like Path of Exile or Diablo, where you'll get all your different weapons and stats and you'll be able to put it together to make some ultimate killing machine. This is very much the same thing. However, what I feel like Void in its current state is lacking a little bit. It's just a general, what am I doing past the story type of thing? Because you see, when the sort of game ends, or I don't want to call it it ends, but when there isn't any more to play, it stops, but there's still so much for you to farm. I know that on the roadmap, as of like talking, as of making this, there is a note that they want to add more world events and stuff like that, and I think that is going to be really, really good. I also just want to give the suggestion of adding dungeons and stuff like that into the game. Fucking love it when I can explore more and I can find these different things, because Voin genuinely has a really pretty and cool world to explore. However, not to toot this game's horn too much, there's one thing I specifically very much dislike with Voin. And that is, on Voin, you cannot go wherever you want to. There are limits to your freedom in that sense, and I get it, it's a solo dev project, which is super fucking impressive. But man, couldn't we just have made it onto like different islands you're on instead then? Because if I can see that there is a tower in the distance, I want to go there. I want to go and see what the fuck that is. But at the moment at least, I can't. I don't know if that's a planned to be added thing or if that's not planned at all. But regardless, it's a little bit shitty to just be pulled back by God himself. Be like, no. Now, all of that being said, it doesn't really affect my enjoyment of Voin at all. I think Voin is super cool. If you just want to spend a few minutes, maybe a few hours, murdering a bunch of monsters, I would turn on Voin, even though I've completed the game so far. I really fucking enjoy what this game has to offer, because in the combat, it isn't just you spam clicking murdering, it's a lot of that. But you can also parry, which gives the satisfying ring sound, and then you'll get a little bit of slow-mo in time to hit the enemies even more. They'll be stunned for a little bit. And of course you have your perfect dodges, which can also be enhanced through different rings and upgrades that you can find throughout the world. And I fucking adore that. I really love it. Now, if you aren't into build crafting and all of that sort of thing, is there any reason to play Voin on its own? The answer to that, in my opinion, is yes. I think the story itself manages, even though it's a little bit simple as of now, to be interesting. I love the idea of being the embodiment of lightning, and I think the fast-paced nature of Voin is fun. I think the game can really be summed up as just being really cool, and I think that is really well worth playing, because the reality is I don't think you're gonna find anything that looks and plays like this anywhere else at the moment. From the fast-paced nature to the parrying to the close-up melee combat, it's all here. And I really enjoy how it implements parrying in first person, something which I traditionally think can feel a little bit iffy. But I think Voin does it in a way where it feels so natural and it often feels like it's doable. I also feel like there's a good balance of you having to dodge and you having to parry, not just, you have to dodge everything, or you could in theory dodge everything, but I don't think it's the most effective way to play the game. And I also appreciate that. I think the world itself is worth exploring on its own, as there's also chests and stuff for you to find. And I think it's just really pretty. Like, the reality is sometimes all that it needs to be is just a pretty game. And Voin manages to have this really unique art style that, in my opinion, stands out quite a lot through the retro new age aesthetics that I think is really cool. In the sense that, yeah, there are some pixel art here in the first person perspective, and that alone isn't something you see every day. But on top of that pixel art, there's also these really cool animations and this really cool world that is filled with grim dark fantasy to the brim. And I think that is, like I said, in and of itself, well worth exploring. And on top of that, it's a solo dev project. How fucking cool is that we live in a moment in time where somebody by themselves can sit down and make something like Voin. Voin is really fucking cool. It's something that I genuinely never expected to fall as in love with as I have. But I think it's one of those games that is well worth experiencing for yourself, just because it is so unique and so unlike anything that has been there before. It is what I would call the pinnacle of indie. It's something that explores a new concept or even takes old concepts and innovates on top of it. It is a risk that I don't think you'd see a AAA studio take ever. And I think that's really fucking cool. And if somehow the developer ends up watching this, I just want to say that, really, really good job on making Voin. That's insane, man. What a fucking cool game. And with all of that said, if you want to check out Voin, I've left a link to it in the description. And overall, I just want to say, what a game. I genuinely really love Voin for what is already out. I think it is well worth checking out, and like I said, there's a link to it in the description. And if you have enjoyed the video, you can do the YouTube stuff. And I just want to thank you for watching until the end. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.